Negative Nease and Harb coming to you this week. We are in the virtual YY8 studios. I'm here in Strawberry Plains. Harbin is where are you at now? I can't remember.
Also, Strawberry Plains.
That's all right. That's all right. You bounced around there for a little bit, so I wasn't sure where you were these days. So, well, glad you were able to join us. We're currently if you're listening to this, you're probably in the snow or looking out your window and seeing snow. Currently, it is 8:58 p.m. Sunday night. No snow has started falling yet in East Tennessee, so we'll see what happens with that overnight. Looks like about here any minute we might start getting some. So hope everybody got their milk and their bread, their Dr. Pepper, their beer, their liquor,
What?
whatever else you needed to get through Snowmageddon 2024. You said winter was going to come and get us here pretty quickly, Harbin. So you're not far off from what you said last week.
Now, I trust the Woolly Boogers and the Farmer's Almanac, and they said it was going to be harsh. They didn't say it was going to come early or on time. It's looking like it's going to be late, but she's going to get us.
She always does.
As of 9 p.m., Memphis and Nashville have already caught it pretty bad, so it's trending this direction.
Yep. This buck, if you've already experienced, I hope everybody's staying warm and safe out there, and hopefully this will get you through a little bit of your day. So let's just get right into it, Harbin. It was a rough day for you. Big Montana decided not to join us. He's too busy licking his damn wounds, as one of our listeners used to say. Um, let's just tell us how you're feeling after the Cowboys got obliterated by the Green Bay Packers this afternoon.
It's tough because it comes around every year. Um, in many different shapes and forms. Um, I've obviously had a million people message me to either screw with me or check on me or rub it in or just want to talk about the game, which I'm not interested in any of those, just to be 100% honest with you. Um, I'll get back to you in 24 to 36 hours. Um, but since it happens all the time, I'm numb to it. But also at the same time, it makes it that much worse because you know it's coming. Um, this might be the worst playoff loss for the Cowboys in my lifetime, and I've experienced some gr- excruciating ones. Like we've had some close calls, we've had heartbreak, we've had dumb decisions at the end, but this was a game. This was a game where you were supposed to handle fairly, not fairly easily, but you're supposed to take care of business. It was at home, this young team, and you just completely shit down your leg and get boat raced at home at a place you haven't lost to all year. Um, yeah, it's gonna suck. The Packers are notorious for being cowboy killers. I thought that was all Aaron Rodgers. It's clearly not. They have the 24-year-old light skinned version of him now. Um, so I mean, tomorrow or Tuesday, I'll be completely fine. I won't care anymore. That's how sports work. Um, but it sucks right now. You know, I mean, it's tough. Um, and then you got to deal with all the people that you're friends with or acquaintances with. And you're in this boat. I'm going to call you out. Um, that don't really have an NFL team, or at most are a fair weather Titans fan, which is hilarious to me because Nashville hasn't seen fair weather in quite a while. They had one of the best running backs of all time and just got one championship game appearance out of them. Conference, not even total league. But those are the loudest ones, and they always are. I have some friends that are diehard fans, and I respect them tremendously because I know what they go through. And they're normally the quietest ones when your team is going through tough times. Um, Joey Cox is an example. He's a Niners fan. I was looking forward to a rematch, finally getting them. It's not happening. I haven't heard anything from Joey because that's what diehard fans do. But it's the ones that don't have a team or their team's trash and they don't really follow them until they start winning, kind of like you. Um, I mean, you didn't have to tag me in 4 separate social media posts with that 65-year-old woman holding surrender cobra and saying that was me. You know, you didn't have to do that. That was a dickhead move.
I didn't have to, but I did.
I mean, emotions are high right now, and I understand that we have some younger listeners on the show, so I'm gonna do my best to censor myself because they weren't the ones that hollered at me. But Nathan Nease, you are on the chopping block. You're an asshole. You're an ass.
Who else out there is on the chopping block? Anybody else? Just me, or is
I
there
mean, you're
others?
number one. I mean, you posted on Snapchat, Twitter, and Instagram.
Now on Twitter, I put that in response to someone else. I didn't even tag you in it on that one.
No, but I mean, I caught the message, and obviously so did John because he tagged me in the reply. I mean, it's not that hard. Um, but this is character building, in my humble and honest opinion. I've been a Cowboys fan as long as I can remember, and they have done absolutely nothing in my entire lifetime. You will never experience that feeling for a professional team. If and when,
Experience
if
what?
and if and when we finally get over the hump, it'll be a glorious feeling. I may be 79 years old when that happens, but all the bad that I've experienced through elementary, middle, high school, college, up into my young adult life, whenever it does happen, it'll make it that much sweeter. And I keep receipts. So
You
I and the
you
Dallas thing has played out to me. I mean, people hate them based on them winning 30 years ago. I mean, like, whatever, man.
you do realize I'm a Chicago Cubs fan, correct?
You are a Cubs fan, correct? Yeah,
And how much crap did I go through until they finally got over the hump in 2016?
correct. But nobody hates the Cubs.
But I also took a
Nobody
bunch of no, you're right, but
wait.
and I don't hate the Cowboys. But
You just want to you
I
just
did
want to
take a
vindicate
bunch
today. I understand that.
I did take a bunch of crap over the years every time the
Well,
Cubs
yeah,
lost. But it wasn't as often. That's what I was telling God, who was it? I was telling somebody just a little bit ago, it kind of I know how Cowboy fans feel, but it's a little bit different because the Cowboys are in the playoffs every year and they're hopped up every year. And they do this every year where the Cubs were make the playoffs a couple years, back to the cellar for about 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 years. And then new ownership came in, took over, expectations changed. They started making the playoffs every year. And then it went back to not making the playoffs. But the Cowboys make the playoffs seemingly most every season, especially here recently. But just can't get over the hump for whatever reason. Well, I wanted to ask you this because I was talking to somebody else and we'll get into UT stuff here in a minute. I hear a lot all the time, and don't take anything I sent you or tagged you in personally, Harb. We're just having a good time.
It's personal.
It's personal. Okay. Um, so I hear a lot about Jerry Jones, and Jerry Jones is the problem. But it seems to me, just outsider's view here, he for the most part, I think puts a pretty good team out on the field, product on the field. I think he's got a pretty good coach in Mike McCarthy. Why do people all the time say it's Jerry Jones' fault? Because I don't quite grasp that. I don't understand what is he, in your opinion, as a Cowboys fan, what is he doing to hold this team back or this franchise back?
Well, to correct you just a hair, Mike McCarthy is a bad head coach. He's not good.
Won a
He
Super
got
Bowl.
Yeah, he got carried by Aaron Rodgers. And listen, man, like I normally defend Dak. I'm not trying to throw him off a bridge like most Cowboys fans are right now, but he's not prime Aaron Rodgers. I mean, that goes without saying. McCarthy got carried in Green Bay by Aaron Rodgers. They were always good. They always had at least a decent amount of talent around him. But it goes before that with Jerry. Directly before, he's always kind of been big on getting Texas guys or Dallas guys. Directly before McCarthy was Jason Garrett. Jason Garrett was a train wreck. He was not a good head coach. Before that, it was Wade Phillips. That was arguably even worse. You go right before that, it was Bill Parcells. He was a shell of the man he once was. The thing with Jerry is he makes what I mean. It's with any other GM or owner. He makes what he thinks is the best decision. But his judgment's skewed. About roughly 10 years ago, his son Steven took over the draft process for the Cowboys, and that's why we have a good roster now. Um, the first year he took over in the draft was the year Johnny Manziel got drafted. I don't remember what year that was, but everybody wanted Manziel in Dallas. They're like, oh, it'll sell tickets because we weren't that good at the time. Instead, we drafted Travis Frederick, who was NFL All Pro every year of his career before he retired early due to health problems when he was 29 years old. Got him. Ever since then, Steven has had total control of the draft process. And since then, we've drafted Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, C.D. Lamb, Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard, Leighton Vander Esch, all the guys that you know that have been very good Cowboys players on the at least within the last couple of years have all been Stephen Jones products. That's why we've improved as a franchise. We have all the tools and all the money. We just don't really have all the brains. And the rumor is out there that if we didn't make it past the divisional round, which obviously we didn't even make it past the wild card round, that McCarthy was gone. And I don't even think he made it out of the stadium. I think he's already been notified, and they're just going to wait till tonight or tomorrow morning to say it. But apparently, Jerry is in love with Jim Harbaugh. So
Hmm.
we'll see about that. Emotions are kind of high. I'm not going to really give my opinion on him because I don't really know. Um, Obviously, the other choice would probably be like Belichick. Obviously, Vrabel's out there too. Um, but it's looking and sounding like Harbaugh. McCarthy's gone. All he ever was fat Jason Garrett. He was a hand puppet for Mr. Jones. And I hate to say this because this guy is a father and I'm sure a brother and a husband. Um, but we're not going to get over the hump until that man dies. And I've said that for the last 7 years. So it's true. It sucks. But we've got probably a top four roster in the NFL. and you get boat raced by a team that's average age on the 53-man roster is 25 at home, you got to do something. And I think Dan Quinn's gone too, unfortunately. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm not I don't fair weather Titans fan, more of a casual Titans fan, but it would not shock me in the least if the Titans hired failing Dan Quinn as their next head coach over the next few days or weeks. And I don't say failing; he's not failing as Dallas's defensive coordinator. They had a pretty good year defensively, but he's a failed head coach. The Titans are going to hire some loser probably. It's going to be a slow process of rebuilding, but I was talking to a guy the other day. He's more excited about it than I am because he loves Will Levis, and I think that might be part of the problem. Is they've drafted poorly at the most important position on the field, and then they let the second most important position as the head coach go. He's a great Mike Vrabel, great head coach. He's gone, and partly Mike Vrabel's own fault because he couldn't get along with the GM from what you can hear. But yeah, what a mess in Nashville right now. The weather sucks out there, and so does the football team. All their football teams. Vanderbilt sucks. The Titans suck. It's pretty rough shape out there. But well, Harbin, I hope you don't dwell on this too long. Time will heal all wounds. Oh my gosh. Might have to come over.
I just want to say before you say anything, that's been there literally every episode that I've recorded in this room.
I like it.
Yeah, but 30 minutes ago, I was thinking if I could potentially start it with my own breath. Um, we're past that. We're healing. We're in the healing
Healing
process.
process.
In the
Well,
healing.
good. Going off the healing process, I have a message I'm supposed to pass along to you from Isaiah Keck, listener
Okay.
of the show. He says, I love you. That was all
Isaiah,
he
I
said.
love you too. I love you too. I appreciate that.
And for those that are listening only, what Harbin was referencing a minute ago is a gun in his room. I don't know if it's a BB gun or a shotgun or
Oh, it's shotgun.
shotgun. Okay. Well, just make sure that it's put up nice and safe tonight, Harbin. All right. So
I'll lock it up. I'll lock it up in the closet with all the knives too.
yeah, there you go. So let's move on from the Cowboys. This I guess next topic will be half depressing, half um joyous, I guess. I don't know. It was a weird week for the Vols basketball team. They went 1-1, lost at Mississippi State on when was that? Wednesday night, and then won on Saturday afternoon at the Georgia Bulldogs. And I'm trying to pull up some info here from the games, but what was your thoughts on the games? Tennessee really it. I don't know how to explain it. I guess it's something we've all seen over the years with this program. Um, been very successful program under Rick Barnes. Has won a ton of basketball games. I think I heard on the LSU Auburn broadcast yesterday that Tennessee and Auburn are tied for the best record in the conference over the last 7 years. They're tied for the best most home wins or the best home record in their respective home arenas over the last 2 or 3 years. Um, which is interesting because Bruce Pearl used to be our coach, and we had to move on for reasons we won't get into tonight. But um, something with this basketball team, I was hoping would go away is the portions of the game where they go in these lulls and. I had to go back. I'm just going to full disclaimer here. Yesterday, I had to work most of the day. And I came home to grab some lunch and saw from the like 14, 15-minute mark of the first half till about the 16-minute mark or so after into the second half. So I saw Tennessee play really well, probably at its best, and then Tennessee play some of its worst basketball of the season. They went the last 4 minutes and change of the first half without scoring a point, not just a field goal. They couldn't get to the foul line. They couldn't make layups. They couldn't make a three. They couldn't do anything on the offensive end and allowed Georgia to go on a 9-0 run to end the half. Georgia extended that to like a 15-0 run right out of the gate in the second half. Tennessee went from having a 14-point lead against Georgia. And I'm kind of jumping around here. I should be talking about Mississippi State first, but went from having a 14-point lead in the first half, 42-28, to trailing by 11 at a couple different points in the second half. Now, I will say this. They were able to find a way, gutted out a win thanks to Dalton Connect and Jonas Adu. And that's a sign of a team that doesn't panic, a veteran team that, doesn't, let things get to them. They're not, everything. They're probably just totally out of a game. But I did yesterday. I left the house. I couldn't take it anymore. I get so frustrated with this team because they're better than that. They are better than that. When you're up 14 on the road against an inferior opponent, there is no way that opponent should come back and go up by 11 points at any point in the game, much less over halfway through the second half or under halfway through the second half. I got up and left. I texted you all and said it was over. I had no idea that Tennessee had won until you all text the group. I literally didn't watch the game. I didn't pay attention to it. I didn't look at my phone. I couldn't do it. And that's so out of my character to do that. But I was so pissed off yesterday at that basketball team. I don't understand. And you can look back at the Mississippi State game on Wednesday night. The first half, they came out pretty well, and then they could not do anything on offense. And give credit to Mississippi State. They're a really good defensive basketball team. They made it tough on Tennessee. But in the second half, Tennessee was a completely different team. They started pressing Mississippi State. Mississippi State couldn't get the ball inbounds, and Tennessee couldn't miss. But this team goes in these offensive lulls, and it's not that they're running bad offense. It's not that they're taking bad shots. And I get tired of hearing that. Well, this is typical Rick Barnes. He's drilling the offense out of them. They're running if you go back and watch, they're running their same stuff. Guys, basketball is a simple sport. It comes down to making shots. And Tennessee, for some reason, it ain't just one of them. It's the majority of the team. For 5 minutes, they seem to forget how to shoot a basketball properly. Santiago Vescovi shot one at Mississippi State the other night that hit the back part, the flat part of the rim that connects the actual cylinder part of the rim to the backboard. He hit that. Like, a shooter as good as he is should never. I mean, I understand randomly, but it just, I don't get it. It's like they collapse mentally. I don't know what the problem is, but they've got to fix that. That's one of the only flaws I see with this team right now. When they're playing at their best, they're hard to beat, and they're one of the best teams in the country. And I realize in basketball that you're going to go through scoring lulls, but it seems like when Tennessee goes through these, it's almost backbreaking, and they're letting teams hang around. And it's not just this year, it's been in past years, but they let teams hang around. That Georgia, I'm sorry, they're better this year, but when you get them down 14, they have no business going up 11 points, much less getting back into the game. And Tennessee was only up 5 at halftime because they could not score. And they've got to figure out a way to be better. They're super seniors or veterans, whatever you want to call them. Triple J and Santiago Vescovi, they've got to be better. I mean, I think Triple J in the first half against Georgia was 0 for 7 from the field. And they're not letting it affect them that much on the defensive end, but they did on Saturday because those two were terrible on defense on the defensive end of the court Saturday. Um, I don't know. I was very frustrated Saturday with it, and I'm still a little. I can feel my blood pressure getting up a little bit, Harbin, here just talking about it because I really feel like this team should be 3-0 right now. I wasn't as upset with the Mississippi State loss on Wednesday night because I think Mississippi State's a better team than people understand that they are. If you look at the metrics across the board, they're a top 30 basketball team. And I know they lost to Alabama over the weekend, but Alabama's a top 15 program, even though a lot of people get hung up. Well, they ain't ranked. Stop looking at coaches' polls and the AP poll. That's opinion based polls. Look at Ken Palm net rankings and other metrics that will tell you where a basketball team stands. Mississippi State's a good basketball team. They're going to be in the NCAA tournament. If they're not, I'll eat crow. Georgia, on the other hand, probably not going to be in the NCAA tournament. They might be a bubble team at best, but I don't even see that happening. But it's good that Tennessee's coming back home this week. Maybe that'll help them kind of calm down a little bit. I know the SEC's better this year, and Georgia's better than they have been in the past. And Tennessee doesn't play well at Stegman Coliseum. Historically speaking, they've won very few games over the years down there at that place. But even Bruce Pearl struggled down there. But I wish they would find a way to be more efficient for 40 minutes and not 25 or 30 minutes because that crap will come back and haunt them in March. And Rick Barnes said it after the game. He said it 2 weeks ago before SEC play started. He said, I love everything about this team. I love everything that they're doing, but they've got to be more consistent. They have these lulls, these lapses. He doesn't know why. Big Montana would probably say Rick Barnes needs to yell at him a little bit more, call more timeouts. I don't know. But I just think if this team could put a consistent 35 to 40 minutes together during a game, they're one of the top 5 teams in the country. And I'll go to the grave with that, Harbin. And my rant is over.
I'm gonna try to get a little bit more chronological than you did.
I was all over the place.
Um, I didn't say it on air. I said it in our group message. The Mississippi State game was a trap game, and I caught a lot of flack from you because I called it a trap game. For those of you that don't know, Mr. Nease hates the term trap game.
Just don't believe in it.
The example he used was, do you not think that this team knows they're better than Norfolk State? No shit they do. But it's a game on paper where you're like, oh, at Mississippi State, that'll be a little bit challenging, but we should end up win, pull away. And a lot of y'all out there may be gamblers. Some have no idea about anything about gambling. But we were only favored by 1.5 the day before the game, and that concerned me. And that's why I called it a trap game. Because you may hate gambling, you may love gambling, but Vegas puts that damn line there for a reason. Those buildings ain't built on hopes and dreams. It was a trap game. The biggest there's two very large grievances I have with that Mississippi State game. Not that game by itself, but issues that arose in that game. Number one, we've got to stop the slow starts on the road. We got blitzed in the first half against North Carolina. That's why we lost that game. And Mississippi State, we was down 14-13 at halftime. You can't do that. You cannot do that, especially against teams that are quad one. For lack of a better term, like pretty good teams to good teams. You cannot do that whatsoever, especially on the road. You got to figure that out. In both games, we battled back, which is nice to see in the second half, but it's too little, too late. Um, Instead of being down by 13 or 14, if you're down 3 or 4 at halftime, you got out a win. I mean, that's the simple fix. My second grievance, um, this could get contentious right here. My second grievance is Jonas Adu,
Really?
100%. Um, he has played in most games. He's played very well this year. He's been a big factor for our success. But if you look at 2 or 3 games this season where we have lost and he has not played well whatsoever, it is when they have a skilled big man who has more mass on him than Adu does. That's the issue here. Which, I mean, I'm going to use Zach Edey as an example. I understand he's probably the best player in college basketball, but struggled mightily against him, which we didn't hold that against him. Lost close game, and I forgot who said it, but last show or 2 shows ago, we said that he won't play a big man as good as him rest of the year, which he won't, and he hasn't since then.
That was you that said that.
I think it was Montana. To be fair.
I thought it was you, but okay. We'll give it to Big
Either
Montana.
way, point stands. I mean
Somebody said it.
that sentence is true. Okay,
Correct. Yes.
so you roll into Stark Vegas, play Mississippi State. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Tolu Smith, their big man, this was his first game back, correct?
I believe it was his second. I think he played at South Carolina. I think.
Okay,
I could
first or
be
second?
wrong. I could be wrong.
He's very new. He's very new, like coming back in. He absolutely torched Jonas Ada. So Adu got 5 rebounds. He got 5 shots off. Scored 9 points. Tolu Smith for the game had 23 points, 4 rebounds, 7 of 10 from the field. And I mean, that sounds like a large discrepancy, but if you watch that game, like Adu kind of got bullied. And I hate to say
There's no
it.
kinda. He did.
Yeah, I like Jonas Adu. I think he's a very good player. I think he's a very important part of this team. But if you get a guy on him that is thicker than him, it's a mismatch against us. And the alternative is you put in Waka, who looks like a lost baby deer on offense. So that's an issue going forward. Obviously, Adu is not the only reason we lost the Mississippi State game. Of the 72 points we scored, 54 of those were scored by 2 players. And Adu scored the 9 more. So that's 63. So of the other 6 players that played, they scored a collective 9 points. And you mentioned Vescovi. He only got we have a 5th-year senior who's been all SEC, 2 or 3 years in a row? He got up 4 shots against Mississippi State. 3 of them were threes. And from what I remember in the game, they were kind of jackups. And one of them you said hit the damn shot clock, or might as well hit the shot clock.
Yeah.
I thought I liked Jordan Gainey for a while. Get his ass off the damn floor. If you want to win some ball games, get his ass off the floor. Give me more Frankie. Meshack no-showed at Mississippi State as well. He only got 2 shots up. Didn't do anything. That was just, I'm not going to call it a bad loss. It was a frustrating loss. That game was frustrating. You had every opportunity in the world to win. You should have won that game, and you didn't. Now, moving on to Georgia, I'm not going to spend as much time on this game as the Mississippi State game. because I only watched the last 5.5 minutes because chess bat. This one's on me. I didn't know what time we played. I thought we played in the evening. Uh, me and my roommate was out doing yard work and kept feeling my phone buzz, and it was y'all talking about the game. Check the ESPN app. There's 6 minutes left, so I watched the last 5.5 minutes, which was I assume the best 5.5 minutes of the game. Um, what we really need to be talking about is how Dalton Connect is an absolute killer on the road. Um, he is the third Road Warrior. His name is Road Warrior Dalton. He is in the Legion of Doom. Um, he is averaging, and I think what is 5 true road games on the season. He's averaging 32.5 points per game. For
He's
college, that is insane.
he's not draws in the Legion of Doom.
No.
He is not.
But he is a stone cold killer. And him and Ziegler this week were the only two that really showed up, in my opinion. Um, let's see here. I take that back. Adu had a good game against Georgia.
I was about to say, where you gotta give Adu.
Adu had a good game because he had a very slow start from my research. Obviously, I didn't see the first 35 minutes, but he had a slow start. But he ended up with a 10 point, 15 rebound, double double. Also put in 5 blocks, I think it was. That's it's not bad. Um, but Vescovi and Triple J combined for 4 of 14 for 10 points.
Yeah,
Those are fifth year guys.
here's Vescovi and Triple J's stat line the past two games. Vescovi is 1 of 4, 0 of 3 from 3-point range at Georgia, 2 of 5, all 5 shots at I'm sorry, that was Mississippi State the first game. 2 of 5 versus Georgia, all 5 attempts and 2 makes were 3-pointers. Triple J was 1 of 8 from the field at Mississippi State, 0 for 3 from 3-point range, and 2 of 9 against Georgia, 0 for 3 from 3-point range. So combined, let's see, they've made 2, 4, 5, 6 shots between the two of them the past 2 games.
Not great.
Not great.
Not great.
And you're right. Adu did get pushed around. So did Awaka at Georgia, or sorry, Mississippi State. But I thought Adu, in 2 out of the last 3 games, he's had a double-double. He's played pretty well. He's not your traditional back to the basket post player. I just the more you see him this year, he really excels when he's moving around. So you're right and it's not anything that anybody else hasn't seen when they play a tough big man down low that roots around. We've got some issues. They're gonna have to figure out how to defend that differently than they're doing right now. I don't know what the answer is right this second, but they've got some issues to figure out when they face a player like a Tolu Smith. Dalton Connect was also amazing, like you said, Harbin. I think he scored 64 points the last 2 games, and he had 2 points at halftime at Mississippi State. But he had 36 yesterday, 28 at 28 at Mississippi State on Wednesday, 26 in the second half, and then 36 yesterday at Georgia, and becomes I think, first player since Admiral Schofield to score, what was it, 25 plus in back-to-back games at Tennessee. Is that what I read? Is that correct?
Run that back one more time.
First player since Admiral Schofield in 29 or it was 2019 to score 25 plus in back-to-back games for Tennessee, I think is what I read.
Well, that sounds right. Because Grant was also gone in 19, so I don't think we've had anybody else that, off the top of my head, would have done that.
I'll have to look that up. But yeah, he'd been in a little bit of a funk. Dalton Connect had over the past few weeks. I think a lot of it stemmed from his ankle injury. He just didn't look like the same player. And then in that second half, he hit a three, and it's like the seas parted and the light bulbs came on, or whatever you want to call it. He was a totally different player. And when I knew he was better in that Mississippi State game, he was putting the ball on the floor and going to the basket. And he had not been doing that the past 2 or 3, 4 games since the North Carolina game when he rolled his ankle. But I felt like he was more aggressive. He was putting the ball on the floor, getting to the basket, getting to the foul line, and he's also making outside shots. He can do it all. Yeah, Connect is a special player. I don't know where he'll end up in the ranking of Tennessee basketball players once he's done here. But he is absolutely making his way toward a top 5 basketball player in Tennessee history. And he's only going to be here for 1 year. But I mean, you could put like Tobias Harris in that category. He was really good when he was at Tennessee and has gone on to have a really good career in the NBA. But Dalton Connect is kind of what this team needed. I talked about it when I went on the Hoop Southbound podcast a couple months ago before the start of the season. Dalton Connect is that guy that can take pressure off of Vescovy, Triple J, and even Zakai Ziegler. They don't have to carry the load all the time. This week we saw that. He carried the load at Georgia. Um, he carried the load in the second half at Mississippi State, while Zakai Ziegler carried the burden in the first half. Now, those other guys at some point I have faith that they'll step up and do something. But think if they don't have him this year, all these other guys come back, they don't have Dalton Connect. Where would this team be right now? So kudos to Rick Barnes and his staff for finding him and getting him in here. And I'm telling you, I believe it. I say this every year, and everybody probably gets sick of me saying it, but I really believe this team can go as far as they want to go if they can put it all together. They've got everything they need. They've got a big man down low that's serviceable, even though he gets pushed around by some big guys. They've got Dalton Connect, which is a game changer. They've got Zakai Ziegler. Only questions I have right now, Harb, and you mentioned it earlier with DeLeon, is their depth. I don't think their depth right now is as good as we thought it would be at the start of the season. They're really not playing that many players. Jordan Gainey's been bad the last few weeks. I don't know what's going on with him. Meshack is up and down. I love Meshack. He had a great game against Ole Miss, but he was nowhere to be seen at Mississippi State. Had a pretty decent game against Georgia Saturday, but Jordan Gainey needs to either figure it out or he doesn't need to be on the floor. I don't know what. I don't think Barnes is going to give up on him quite yet, but it's getting to the point where he's almost a liability out on the court. And I'd give those minutes to Freddie DeLeon, the 5-star guard that we've got in here. We've been waiting on that guy to do something, and he's gotten more playing time over the past couple weeks, but I just don't think the depth on this team right now, and it could get better as we go along, but they've really, over the past month, trimmed their bench down to just about 7 or 8 guys total. And it might get smaller as we go along. They got to find some depth, because Zakai Ziegler can't play 35 and 38 minutes every night. Neither can Adu. These guys on the bench have got to come in and provide some more meaningful minutes. But right now, it's the starting 5 plus a couple, and that's about it. Their depth is not as good as I thought it would be right now.
Now, I will say, I agree with Ado, and that's just naturally because of foul trouble with big men. And I mean, obviously in conditioning, but Ziegler can probably play 35 a game.
He can.
He can. And I don't think it'll be that detrimental on the season going forward if he does, you know. With that being said, though, the what 20 to 25 minutes that Gainey used to get, I would love for DeLeon to get 20 ish. Like Gainey come in maybe every once in a while. If he don't play, he don't play. If we start playing better when he doesn't play, keep him off. I hate it for the kid, but I'm all for the best possible lineup. I really want to see Estrella play more. That's somebody that we haven't talked about in a while. Um, I don't just want the only two big men in the game to be Adu and Owaka. Like I want to see Estrella get playing time. I thought in that Maui tournament, I thought he played pretty well, and he hasn't really gotten much significant playing time since then.
Mm.
Which is kind of interesting. Obviously, I don't make $5 million a year to make those calls.
I've heard Rick Barnes talk about some of these guys, like you're referencing Estrella. I don't. I've heard him say he doesn't trust him right now, and obviously, like you said, he makes the big bucks. He sees him in practice every day, so there's a reason he's not putting them out there. But I'm looking here at the Georgia game Saturday. Freddie DeLeon played 4 minutes, and Jordan Gainey played 14. Freddie DeLeon was 0 for 2 from the field, and Jordan Gainey was 0 for 1 from the field. I don't. I honestly can't remember. I think Gainey hit a three against Mississippi State, but I can't remember another shot he's made in the last 2 weeks. He's been bad on the offensive end. Um, but I would like to see if he's not going to shoot any better than that. I'd like to see those minutes flipped.
Yeah.
Gainey play 4 minutes. Freddie DeLeon play 14. Awaka only played 7 against Georgia, and I thought he was pretty good in the
Uh,
first half, and then he wasn't back out there anymore.
Gainey went 0 for 5 in 9 minutes against Mississippi State, by the way.
Oh, he hit a three against, maybe that was Ole Miss. I remember him hitting a shot.
Well, hell, everyone hit one against Ole Miss.
That's true.
I hate to sound that way towards the young man. We only had 8 players play against Ole Miss. Gainey went 1 for 3. He had 3 points.
What has happened to him? He was not shooting the ball like this at the start of the season.
Well, I mean, the last time that we spoke about him, I said that he was kind of a roller coaster guy. I kind of compared him to a Marcus Smart when Marcus Smart used to play for the Celtics. He's going to get his shots up, and some of them are going to feel like bad shots, and then they end up going in like the no, yes shot. That's how I felt about him in December and November. Now I don't feel that way. I mean, they're not going in, which as a shooter, like, I mean, you got to keep getting them up to get them in. But I don't know. I just don't know if that production is worth it to let him figure it out during games, if that makes sense. I don't know if it's worth it in conference time to let him play 15, 20 minutes a game to go 0 for 8 or 0 for 9 against Alabama, against Florida, against on the road against Arkansas. You know, like I just don't know if you can let him have the ball that much or be on the court that much to figure it out during conference play. I think that ship may have sailed. He might have hit a cold stretch at the worst possible point for his playing time, you know,
Yeah.
which sucks. But especially if Freddie gets more playing time and he starts playing well, and Ziegler keeps up what he's doing, and Vescovi finally figures it out, you can only play so many guys.
Yeah.
I mean, if those three things happen, mainly if Ziegler keeps playing the way he does and Vescovi figures it out, he's not going to be out there very much, if at all. You know, I mean, that's a cold part of the business, but if we're winning games without him, sorry, kid. Um, Shout out nth degree North Orthodox.
That was a great text yesterday. You said Jordan Gainey needs to go back to nth degree orthodontics in Spartanburg. And for those that don't get that reference, Jordan Gainey was at, I guess, the past 2 years at USC Upstate, which is in Spartanburg, South Carolina, home of nth degree orthodontics. So there you go. Looking ahead this week. Oh,
That
sorry, go
Docs
ahead.
in a box.
Docs in a box.
Docs in a box.
One fourth of the members of Docs in a Box.
Correct.
Looking ahead, so the Vols went 1-1 this week. I don't have. Let me see if I can find it real fast. The SEC standings. The Vols are obviously not in first place. They're at 2-1. The surprise team of the SEC season. I guess surprise might be a strange word. I mean, I thought they would be okay this year. I didn't think they were. They've come out of the gate pretty hot as the Auburn Tigers. They're 3-0, 14-2 overall. You've got Alabama at 3-0, 11-5 overall. Then you've got Ole Miss, South Carolina, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, LSU, all at 2-1. We're only 3 games in. Followed by Mississippi State, Florida, Texas A&M, all at 1-2. Texas A&M's a little bit of a surprise. They're off to a slow start. Biggest surprise in the conference, I think, for a lot of people is Arkansas. They're 0-3 along with Missouri and Vandy, which is not a surprise. They're not very good this year, either one of those teams. So Vols 2-1 out of the gate, 12-4 overall. And coming up this week, we got a couple home games, Harbin. We got the Florida Gators coming to town on Tuesday night. That game is a 7 p.m. tip-off on ESPN1. And then you've got on Saturday, either at 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock, they've not set the time yet, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Blitz, Bama Blitz coming to town. ESPN or ESPN2. So I think these 2 games are 2 tough games again for Tennessee, whether people want to think that or not. This SEC season is going to be tough. I mean, Florida Gators, just looking at them, they just picked up their first SEC win of the season this past weekend. Looking at Ken Palm, I just had it pulled up here. Where did they go?
By the way, while you're looking at whatever you're looking at, Florida has been very good at home, and I've talked to multiple Florida fans that I know. Florida basketball team is very good at home. They are dog shit on the road, and that is a direct quote. So, excuse me, but
Who's your sources?
I don't reveal my sources.
Well, you shouldn't.
Yeah, I don't reveal my sources. But Ole Miss's first game after we torched them was at home against Florida. I was like, I'll sprinkle a little bit on Ole Miss. You know, I feel like that's. I mean, I'll sprinkle a little bit on Florida because I thought that was the correct play. Ole Miss beat the tar out of Florida, which was it. Which
They
is
did.
in Oxford. But then Florida's next game, I believe they played Arkansas, which was 2 nights ago, Friday night. They beat the tar out of Arkansas, but it was in Gainesville. So
yeah, Arkansas is bad. Arkansas is bad right now. I don't know what's going on with them.
I watched them. Did they play in the Battle for Atlantis? Was that the one they played in?
I believe so. Yes.
I watched them play, and they had a, I believe it was a double overtime game against Stanford.
UNC. Was it Stanford or UNC?
It wasn't. It wasn't UNC.
Okay.
It was somebody also bad. Arkansas is not good. They're long, they're athletic, they can play pretty good defense like normal Arkansas teams, but watching them on offense made my eyes hurt.
I was listening to the Hoop Southbound guys, and they're Arkansas fans, and they like one of their hosts came on the other night with a paper bag over his head. I mean, they're in rough shape over there, and they pretty much insinuated that the team quit anytime anything goes bad. And I've seen this out of teams before. They just quit. They just kind of gave up. But yeah, they're not good. You're right. Florida did beat them this past weekend. Just for just to give everybody out there some knowledge, Harbin. The Florida Gators in Ken Palm are number 40. They've moved up over the past few weeks. They're 25th in adjusted offense. They're 80th in adjusted defense. So they're about where Georgia was. Georgia was in that area defensively. Um, just to give you some context, Tennessee's number 8 in Ken Palm. They've dropped a few spots this week. Um, defensively, they're third overall and they're 20th overall offense. Here, this is a key stat: adjusted tempo, which means how quick a team plays. I'll read you the definition here. It's adjusted tempo is possessions per 40 minutes, adjusted for opponent. Tennessee has moved up to number 82 in the country. Let me give you some context. Last year, Tennessee was 288. So they've improved dramatically on the offensive end this year, and I think a lot of that's contributed to Dalton Connect. But back to Florida, Harbin, we've got Tennessee versus Florida Tuesday night. Like I said, 7 o'clock. Matchup predictor has Tennessee as an 83.7% chance to win that ball game at Thompson Bowling Arena, not the Food City Center. Then you've got the Alabama Crimson Tide coming up here to TBA. They are number 6 in Ken Palm, number 1 overall in adjusted offense, and number 57 overall in adjusted defense. So a top 10 matchup according to Ken Palm. Tennessee is 61.5% chance to win according to the matchup predictor. Alabama is going to shoot the ball a lot. They like to shoot threes and dunk it. Kind of the old Carter High system. It's system. So I don't know if they play as fast as the running Hornets did. Let's see what their adjusted tempo is. They're 35th in the country. So Florida's adjusted tempo is 11. Wow.
Alabama's style is like the modern NBA.
Florida will shoot a bunch of threes too, by the way.
Yeah, I mean that's just where basketball's going. Analytics have said that you either need to shoot a three or get it to the basket. The mid range is dead for the most part. Jonas Edu is trying to keep it alive. But looking forward to the games. I haven't looked at the line. Let me do that real quick. Without looking at it, I would assume that we're probably between an 8 and 11 point favorite against Florida.
I heard 6.5, but I don't know if that's official.
Well, if that's the case, bet the farm. Trying to damn.
I hadn't even looked.
Trying to find it. Hang on.
While you're looking, Florida's losses this year: Kentucky, Ole Miss, Wake Forest, Baylor, and Virginia is what I found. So not terrible losses, all pretty good programs.
It's not letting me look.
And Alabama's schedule is about the same. They played a pretty tough schedule. I watched them play, was it Arizona a few weeks ago out in Phoenix, maybe? That was a wild back and forth, up and down the court game. Arizona ended up winning it, but do you think the Vols? How do you think the Vols do this week, Harbin? They go 2-0, 1-1, or 0-2?
I mean, we're a much better team at home than we are on the road, which that is very normal for college basketball. But I think with the performance that we put up in Starkville and what we tried to do in Athens, I think we were ready to get home. Looking forward to the next 3 games. Like you said, we have Florida and Alabama at home, and then we go to the road at Vandy. That's why I think it was so important to claw back and get that Georgia victory, is because you have a very good chance to win these 2 at home, and Vandy's bad, but it is on the road, which it's Thompson Bowling West. You have a very good chance to go 3-0 in these next games, get a 4-game winning streak, which gives you a huge amount of confidence. I can't find the line on this Tennessee game, but according to ESPN, we're an 83.7% chance to win. You may have said that. it's going to be somewhere around 8. Like you said, I would kind of put them in that same boat against Georgia. And we were a 7.5 point favorite on the road against them, and home is 3 points. So that's why I said in the 8 to 11 range. I think we beat Florida. Depends on how they're shooting, but generally, what we've seen in the SEC this year, like shooting on the road, has been kind of hard to come by. So I'm not gonna guarantee the same outcome as what happened against Ole Miss, but I think it could be similar to that.
Do
I
you
think
think are either of these two games a trap game?
no, no, because the rivalry games, that's different. It's way different.
Okay.
It's way different. Rivalry games are never trap games. Um,
See, a trap game to me is Vanderbilt. You're going on the road. You're probably going to be favored by what, 10,
yeah, I mean,
12, 14 points? That's
if you
trap
have
game.
if you have a if you have a rivalry where the other team is very bad, potentially, but Florida's not bad. I wouldn't put them in the good category either, but they're not bad. Alabama's better than them, but I think we I think we beat Florida fairly handedly, based on what we've done at TBA this year. Um, the Alabama game could be a dogfight, um, especially if they get the pace up like they want to. We're going to try to slow it down tremendously against them, as we should. Um, which Alabama's kind of funny because we don't really know a ton about them, in my personal opinion. Um, are you looking up Alabama's schedule so far?
No, I'm not.
Okay, well,
So I'm looking up some info real quick on my hater and losers of the week.
fair. Well, real quick while you're doing that, we'll look at Alabama. Their key wins and losses of the season. So on Saturday, they won at Mississippi State, beat them by 8. That's something that we couldn't do. So upper hand right there. They beat the hell out of South Carolina at home, 74-47. They won at Vandy only by 3, but road SEC win. Before that, they got beat by 13 by Arizona in Phoenix. They lost by 3 to Creighton. I believe that was at Creighton. They lost by 6 to Purdue. That was in Toronto. Clemson beat them in the ACC SEC Challenge. They beat Oregon. Yeah, I mean they've kind of been up and down, but they're a good team. So that game's not going to be easy. We have the upper hand slightly, I'd say. You have a good chance to go 2-0 this week for sure. I definitely think that you need to take care of business against Florida. My prediction is that we beat them by around 15 because I'm kind of putting them in the same boat as Ole Miss, which Ole Miss beat them by about 20 in Oxford. But if they played in the swamp, that game is probably a 3 to 5 point game either way. We'll see. It just kind of depends on how the shots are falling. Like you said, we still get into these lulls. They seem to be far less bad at home than they do on the road. So I think we have a very good chance to go 2-0 and not looking too far ahead, but also get a win at Vandy and get a 4-game winning streak going in SEC play.
You're right. And Day said this last week. The lulls are still there. Every team has. I mean, you watch any game. I was watching somebody play the other night. Some team went like 8 minutes without a field goal. But I, you're right. They're not as bad at home, but um, imagine this team without those long 4 and 5 minute scoring droughts. They still scored 5 yesterday, 77 at Mississippi State. I mean, they're averaging near 80 points a game. and they still have these Jekyll and Hyde moments during the game. So just imagine if they didn't. I mean, they might be scoring close to 85 a game. But yeah, I think Tennessee this week. I think they take care of business at home against Florida. Alabama will be tough. They're a good basketball team. No, they're not ranked, but they're very highly rated by the metrics. It's going to be a tough game in Thompson Bowling. Tennessee better come ready to play because Alabama can score with the best of them. But I think Tennessee just plays really well at home. They don't lose much at home. I'm going to say Tennessee goes 2-0 this week. They've got Vandy coming up after Alabama and South Carolina. So two very winnable games coming up for the Vols after these two. So very important to probably win these two games this week. That way it gives you a little momentum heading into very, very winnable games. They're going to be heavily favored in against South Carolina and Vanderbilt.
I
Um,
real quick, I do expect at least two out of these three over the next two games to step up out of Triple J, Vescovy, and Meshack. I think at least two out of those three will have very good games against Florida and Alabama. And I think we're going to need two of those three guys to play good to beat both of them.
I agree. I agree with that 100%. Harbin, before we get into haters and losers of the week, give your thoughts, give the listeners, give the people your thoughts on Nick Saban retiring from Alabama Crimson Tide.
Um,
Big story of the week.
that's huge. I'll start off with my non-biasness. Greatest coach of my lifetime, um, football wise. Probably the greatest college football coach of all time. Um, Outside of the hatred, once I got older, I grew to respect the hell out of the guy. I really did. It was fun. It was fun to hate him, and it sucked losing to him so many times. Which we got him in his final trip to Knoxville, so suck on that. But I think it was a surprise that it happened this year. Um, I don't think anybody really saw that coming. Um, I didn't. It was kind of odd, but they ended up with DeBorn from Washington. Um, I thought it was going to be Lanning. Reportedly, Lanning said no, which I thought was a shock. We don't know if they officially reached out to Sarkeesian and what was the other one? Norville.
Norvell, yeah.
But after Lanning put out his little chicken shit video of "I'm not leaving," Sarkeesian and Norville kind of followed suit. So potentially DeBorn was fourth or fifth pick. Um, Maybe he was the first or second option. We have no idea. I don't know how good he's going to be. Following in a legend's footsteps like that, no matter what, it's going to look like a disappointment. I don't see six titles in the next 12 years coming out of him. So, I mean, that's going to be a disappointment.
It's going to be a culture shock for Alabama fans. It really is. You think about it all, and I know some of those kids down there at Alabama that are in college that we hung out with at the game this past fall. Like, think about them. Like, they grew up not knowing anything but Alabama either winning the SEC or playing in the SEC title game every year or being in the BCS championship game or being in the playoffs. They just don't know any different. And that is not, I mean, but outside of Ohio State, I mean, who's been in the playoffs every year? It's Alabama and Ohio State. That's been it. And outside of that, it's been a revolving door of different teams. You've had Washington, you've had Georgia. I mean, Georgia's the most recent to kind of solidify them, but they didn't even make it this year. They probably should have been, but I mean, you've had a revolving door of Washington, I'm trying to think Georgia. I mean, you've had
Texas.
Texas in there. You've had Michigan in there. You've had Oklahoma in there. You've had just a mixture of teams over the past few years. Oregon. So it's does Nick Saban leaving Alabama and retiring open the door up for, and I know we're going to 12 teams now, so it kind of waters it down just a little bit, but Alabama's probably still probably going to be in that 12-man race, but it makes it a little more interesting. There's a lot of unknowns. I mean, I think DeBoer's a good coach and he'll do, I think, probably pretty well down there, but I just don't, like you said, I don't see him winning 6 titles in 12 years and going to the championship game or the semifinals every year. Maybe he does and surprises us, but I don't see that. But um, I felt bad for old Roll Tide Willie. He was in tears the other night. I don't know if you saw that or not, but he was hurting. But quickly, Harbin, haters and losers of the week. I'll go ahead and give you mine. I've got a list of them here. 4 individuals. I actually have 4. Is that allowed?
I mean, I guess so if they're all related.
Yeah, it's all related. These 4 individuals decided after Tennessee beat Iowa 35-0 to vote Iowa ahead of Tennessee in their final poll, which is why I hate the AP poll in all sports. You had Reese Davis, who had Iowa ranked 17th, Tennessee unranked, Reese Davis of College Game Day. Emily Adams, I had to look up Miss Adams, and she is
Is she hot?
Nah, not my cup of tea. I mean, she's not ugly, I guess, but no, she's not hot. Um, she is with the UConn's women basketball and Connecticut Sun for the Hartford Current. So she's a Yankee. She also has her pronouns in her profile, if that tells you anything. She has Tennessee at 19, Iowa at 17. Our next individual is a guy named Mike Varell. Mike Varell is a University of Washington Huskies reporter and soon to be sports columnist for the Seattle Times. Mike does not have his pronouns in his Twitter profile. He had Iowa at 18, Tennessee at 22. And our final hater and loser of the week is a guy named Ron Counts. He's a Boise State football beat writer for the Idaho Statesman. He is a 4-time APSE award winner. Don't know what that is, but great, good for him. He had Iowa at 17 and Tennessee unranked. How could you, obviously they didn't watch the game, but how could you sit there and watch that game and have Iowa ranked not just ahead of Tennessee, but 2 of these 4, and there may be more of these people, but 2 of the 4 had Tennessee unranked in their poll. How could you seriously sit there and watch that game and vote like that? They ought to have their voting rights stripped from them and never allowed to be returned, which is why I do not look at AP polls. I don't care about them. I just happened to stumble upon this and thought it was ridiculous. So those 4 individuals, Reese Davis, Emily Adams, Mike Varell, Ron Counts, are negative nieces, haters, and losers of the week. What do you got, Harbin?
Um, I was gonna go low hanging fruit with Mike McCarthy, but we spent 20 minutes on that at the beginning of the show, so
Yeah, good move.
not going to. But my hater and loser of the week is gonna be citizens of Tuscaloosa, Alabama / Alabama fans. Which we touched on this about 5 minutes ago. But in the following days after Nick Saban announced his retirement, for those that don't know, they already have a statue erected of Nick Saban in Tuscaloosa. But various citizens of Tuscaloosa and fans that potentially traveled placed what I will call gifts at the feet of Nick Saban's statue. Of these, a lot of them were oatmeal cream pies, Coca-Colas, messages. Some people left print-offs of pictures when they met the guy. Nease, correct me. Did he retire or did he pass away?
Well, I thought he retired, but from the pictures and everything I saw, I thought he had passed away.
It was very odd to me. There were some very funny ones. I was trying to find the tweet exactly. but I didn't like it. I was
There
going
was
for
there was one that said, "Well done, thy good and faithful servant."
yes.
That was probably my favorite one.
There was
And
that,
and there was a bag of ice.
and there was one, I'm assuming student or former student, that printed off a picture of when he met him somewhere, potentially when he was doing a talk show at a pub or something. And he left a gold Four Loco next to the picture. I thought that was absolutely awesome. That's great. My favorite comment out of all of it, because there was a ton of Cokes and oatmeal cream pies, little Debbie cakes, because apparently that was his drink and snack of choice. Uh, One guy commented and said, "Coke and cream pies is how Rick Pitino went out."
Yes. Yeah.
Uh, Not gonna explain that one. But yeah, I just thought that was really weird. I understand he did so much for that university, um, and college football in general. That's just an odd behavior. Like he didn't die, guys. Like he's just a guy. Like I saw one that said "Long live the king." Like again, he's alive. Like he's not sick either. Like it's not like he's got Lou Gehrig's disease. Like he's fine. But that's my haters and losers of the week. I know we're very short on time, so I'll cut it off right there.
Good nomination there. I think both of us have good nominees this week. Well, we're gonna get out of here. Like Harbin said, time is short. Appreciate everybody listening. Cowboys fans, keep your heads up. Like Cubs fans, we finally got our title. Maybe one day you'll finally get yours again, even though you have one in some of your all's lifetimes. But anyways, keep your heads up. Appreciate everybody listening. Remember, you can find us YouTube, anywhere you get podcasts. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Please go watch us and like and subscribe and share. For Harbin, this has been Negative Niece. This has been the Section YY8 podcast.